Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Michael Neal, founder and CEO of Build My Team, and a practicing optometrist. Like many entrepreneurs, Dr. Mike faced a recurring challenge in his early years, and it's hiring the right people. After repeated hiring struggles threatened to derail his business and even his vacation plans, he decided to take matters into his own hands, drawing inspiration from hiring powerhouses like Disney and the Four Seasons. He reverse engineered the hiring process, asking one key question: what kind of person will be successful in this role? The results, game-changing. His practice flourished with long-term, high-performing team members. Today, we'll dive into Dr. Mike's innovative approach to hiring and the key mindset shifts required for building sustainable teams. Welcome to the conversation, Mike.
Hi, Lisa. So great to have me today. Thanks so much.
I am thrilled to have you here. My audience knows that I am a firm believer that there's an equation for business success, and it's people plus process times technology equals growth and scale. And so it all starts at the very beginning with people.
Yeah.
And yet we mess that up a lot. So why is it so important today that you are focused on this for you, for your business and for your clients?
Well, I think right off the bat, we can all acknowledge that hiring is so much harder than it ever has been, especially with a small business. Corporations have all kinds of different resources, but small businesses most certainly don't. And the other side of that equation is when you hire somebody who doesn't work out, it's so awful. You know, I think a lot of people would choose to be hit in the head with a frying pan before they choose to be in that situation. So it's really awful. And what we have done is created a process with people that's mostly automated. It finds folks for small businesses based upon talents and strengths, not resumes. And we've been able to scale that to United States and Canada and over 40 states.
That's fabulous. So talk to me a little bit about the approach, right? What the process is, and then how you automated it.
Sure. Well, right off the bat, hiring based upon resumes is an antiquated approach. If you're looking at entry level positions, administrative, clerical positions, the resumes don't tell you anything about what the person's good at. All they give you is a work history of, for the most part, what they did that didn't work out for very long. You can't make decisions based on that, but there's really been no alternative up until now. And so the approach that we're using is an automated approach where our team, for our clients, where our team writes the job description, and it's designed to get as many applicants as possible because almost all of them are rejected through this process. We are essentially looking for a very special needle in a stack of needles. And by doing this, by having this focus on talents and strengths, we can find people, that super special needle, if you will, find people who are outstanding at a job. Usually they don't even know that they're great at it. They don't know their strengths and talents. And when you take a person who's naturally gifted in for a particular role that you have, when they just come into work, they don't think it's a big deal whatsoever, and they have those natural talents and strengths, the productivity can be absolutely mind-blowing. I've seen it myself in our healthcare practice. We've seen it around the country with our clients.
It's so super simple at the basic, underlying thought of, right? We want to find people who have the strengths and the willingness to use them and leverage them for our business. But finding people with strengths and talents that they didn't know they had.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what that looks like when you're looking at an administrative, entry-level job.
Well, we hire everybody from secretaries, technicians. We started out in healthcare, in eye care in particular, and we have there's so much certainty in how to bring people into those positions, managers as well, that type of thing. Most of these folks tend to be I won't say younger perhaps, but less experienced in the workforce. They don't have the faintest clue what they're good at. And I know that sounds really like something else. How could they not know? But they flat out don't. And so what we end up seeing is folks are applying for these positions um, generally because they're office positions, they're inside, they're in front of a computer so many times. Bonus, we got some air conditioning. I mean, these are pretty good, stable jobs. That's what they're looking for. They don't necessarily care as much about which type of job. And in particular in healthcare, it doesn't matter to them if they're in a dentist, a general practitioner's office, eye care, chiro, it doesn't matter. They're looking for those stable type positions. And they really don't know what they're good at to begin with. So they're applying all over the place. It's more of a shotgun approach than something more specific.
And how do you narrow down to those specific talents that are going to make them successful in this environment, right? Those things that they have that they don't know they have that are the secret to their future success.
Well, first of all, we flip it all upside down.
Okay.
Our approach is entirely backwards from a regular hiring approach. We don't look for the person who can do the job. We look for the people who absolutely positively cannot do the job. So imagine an enormous funnel. We write the job description. We get as many applicants as possible through our automated systems. And those applicants, they're asked to do assessments. We're only talking about, depending on the person, 10, 15 minutes of these assessments. But right off the bat, about half of them don't do it. Guess what? Those are half of the people that we just removed from your death by 1,000 paper cuts process, going through these resumes. Like, these are folks who have no interest in lifting a finger. Now, do you want them in your company? Of course not. They're a disaster. So we remove those. They go through our process. The process identifies their strengths and talents. It looks at all kinds of things that would make them successful in these roles. Like, for example, we can even measure stress tolerance. And in some small business tolerance requires a helmet when you show up at work each day. In others, not so much. So there's a million different things that we're able to, not literally, but there's hundreds of different things we're able to determine. And these are essentially positions that have algorithms. What I mean by that is we know what makes an absolutely terrific secretary, a billing person, technicians, managers, all of these types of positions. This is not an executive search. We're not looking for executives by any means, but in those types of roles, when they have the natural strengths and talents for the positions, that's where the magic happens.
It is where the magic happens, and finding it. So oftentimes businesses find those people on accident, and you're changing that around to on purpose, and on purpose with purpose, right? So that you can build and grow the business. When you find hidden talents in an individual, right, and they're moving through this process, how do you use what you've learned about them to engage them into continuing through the hiring process?
Well, that's part of what we've built in. Is they have to pass a couple different levels in order to proceed all the way through our automated process. At the end, what they do is a video interview. And the video interview it allows us to make sure that the person would be appropriate for your business. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. None of that stuff matters. What matters is how they represent themselves, how they conduct themselves. Do they talk a mile a minute like an auctioneer, or are they much more calm? And there's all kinds of things that factor into this. And what ends up happening is our team is able to recommend the absolute finalists for your position. And the amount of work that our clients have into that position is almost always less than an hour's worth of net total work. This is not an exaggeration. We can get people in front of the one or two finalists in this process in front of the business owner with less than an hour's worth of work almost all the time. So what does that mean? Well, easy. You get to focus on your business. You don't have to buy toner cartridges for your printer to print out these resumes. The list goes on and on.
Well, and if when you're thinking about small business owners growing businesses, right, where the owner founder is still involved in this part of the hiring process,
Right.
that influx of resumes, and yours is even larger, but even just a generic posting on a jobbing site will result in hundreds of things coming in. So taking all of that down to an hour or less of time to meet with the top few
Mhm.
that have been vetted in a way unlike your team, their team would be able to do for them, is absolutely game changing.
Right.
So I want to stop for a second in the middle of all of this and talk a little bit about your story. And will you tell
Mm.
us about the vacation that almost didn't happen?
Which one? There were numerous ones. The challenge we faced early on is that as my wife and I, as doctors, we were hiring the wrong people. Um, we were hiring like we would be a doctor. We were looking for people that we can help, we can improve, we can do all of those things. And while it was a noble cause, it was disastrous in terms of a small business. I understand why we did it. It was the wrong thing to do for the business in every way. And what I mean by that is when we started to look at how do we get these A players, like true performers in the position. We talk about A players, B players, and C players. The A players only want to work with A players. They will tolerate B players and they'll quit their job because of C players. So why did we miss those vacations and almost miss them? A team full of C players. We, most small businesses have one, maybe two, if they're lucky, of those superstar employees, and they carry the bulk of that business. So if you're looking at your team and you're saying, without this particular person, we're toast, give us a call, because that's the start. You know what you're looking for, you just don't know how to get there. And our process is unbelievably reliable because it only does one thing, and it finds those folks. So back to the vacation side of things, we had one person. We did anything that one person wanted. The tail was wagging the dog, Lisa, in every way. And when you're in that position, you can't scale anything. You are a house of cards. I remember time after time, Monday morning, waking up, grabbing my cell phone, taking a deep breath. My hands started to sweat. Look at the text. Well, Susie can't come in today because Susie's goldfish died. And her roommate is so upset that Susie and her roommate are going to have to take the day off. Okay. Lisa, did we hire an A player with that person?
No, no, but so many people can tell that story, right? And the tail was wagging the dog, and it's a hard lesson to learn, especially
Right.
in an environment where I'm guessing there were three employees: your wife, and Susie, for the most
And
part.
and some other folks that we paid but didn't do a whole lot. And that's on us. It's not on them. This is not a gripe session about the employees, because I firmly don't believe that. Everybody has their own set of talents and strengths. The magic does not happen. It categorically cannot happen unless there's a terrific fit between those talents and strengths and what you're asking them to do. If you have people who aren't performing well, sometimes it's a communication thing. That's straightforward. But when you've gone through that and it's not a communication thing, you're doing them a massive favor by helping them to move on to another position. That sounds crazy, but you truly are. And what our team does is in the initial client discussion, we'll find out all the things you loved about that person and all the things you need to do differently. And then we find the people for you that are almost all the things you loved and hardly any of the stuff that you didn't love. That's where the A players come in
And I'm going to bet in that new equation, there's also skills and talents that you desperately need that you didn't know about,
all the time.
right?
Absolutely all the time. Small business owners hate to delegate. And having been there, done that, and got all the t-shirts, I can tell you that you don't delegate anything as a small business owner until you can have somebody you can hand it off to who can actually do it. And so many times with our clients in the early stages, well, it didn't take that long. I'll just do it myself. Well, what happens when you say that 100 times a day? You just lost the day.
Absolutely. Guilty as charged. I
Right.
have those
Oh,
days.
we all have been. Exactly. So when we get folks on your team that you can hand a tiny project off to, hand a task off to, right? And then it grows to a tiny project. And then all of a sudden, wow, a, a, a let's call it a decent sized project. Yeah, all of our hands are getting sweaty talking about this right now, but then it's off to a major project. And then next thing you know, they're part of your internal team and you're discussing strategy, approaches, because you've got somebody you can trust. And that type of person, you can't babysit, you can't spoon feed, none of those types of things. This is an A player, and you give them a vision that you want to achieve. Make sure they have the resources to achieve it, and you get out of the way.
Absolutely. And through all of that, you made a couple of points that, sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is help them move on. And we don't like to talk about that, but it is a really important step for your own business growth to see somebody that you may have invested and poured into lots of things. You have coached, you have mentored, you have done all of those things, and they still aren't the right fit. And it is an
Right.
act of kindness to encourage them forward in their journey. And there are lots of wonderful ways of doing that. So, you talked about it
Right.
briefly, but I really want to, make sure the audience gets it's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing.
You know how many times I've regretted letting somebody go? We don't need two hands to count that high, right? Because, well, most small business owners don't do it because that person is the devil they know.
Yes.
It's the devil they know. We know that that person's a C player. However, and then you start to justify it to yourself, all these reasons. What Build My Team does is you can confidently start this process. We get the A players, B plus players, and then you have a discussion with your team. Hey, maybe this isn't right for you, but the team is not going to hold you hostage.
Yeah.
There is no hiring noose put around your neck. Oh, if you don't do X, I leave. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Okay, you leave.
Absolutely. And you have the foundation for growth because the team is performing. And
Yes.
the team, I am assuming in this process, starts to become more involved actually in the hiring because, right, we're
Mm-hmm.
growing and that founder and owner is, further and, potentially further and further removed to the individual hire. So the team isn't going to bring in a new player that's
Right.
going to mess things up.
Oh, it's the opposite. The team would say, don't hire the A players. They don't want, like, they will quit their job because of C players. So they would much rather do extra work themselves than have these people who are for their purposes, a functional boat anchor on the team. They want nothing to do with that. And I know that sounds harsh. If you don't believe me, then we got to question, do you have A players on your team? Because when you, like, most business owners are A players. They don't want to work with the B players or the C players either. Put yourself in your own shoes. I know that sounds a little goofy, but if you think about it in that terms, imagine how the employee feels. They don't even have the control that you have as a business owner. So when you have those folks who aren't great on your team, the focus really needs to be on why and replacing them.
And so, take us through kind of the journey a little bit further. So you now have clients that are hiring exceptional A players on their
Mm-hmm.
team. What does that do for business growth?
Imagine the metaphor of the getting the right people on the bus. Okay, so a lot of small business owners, they're not driving a bus. They're driving like a beat up old 72 Chevy that barely starts. Well, you get the bus, you get the right people on the bus. Then what we also do at Build My Team is we move them to the right seats on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
We help our clients do that. And then instead of driving this bus, you don't do that anymore. Your role is to draw the map, tell the bus driver exactly where you want them to go. You put some guardrails on the road because we all know businesses need that. And then you get out of the way and you let them drive the bus as fast as possible. When you do that, I have seen, our practice is an example. The level of success that came is something I would not have believed. That sounds incredibly arrogant. It is completely factual. With our clients, the same thing. I think the key point for almost all of this is the folks who believe in this and believe in this talents and strengths approach, they build empires. They build businesses that scale extremely well. How the heck do you identify those? Well, that's what we've cracked, is how to do that in an automated, scalable way. If you're busy looking at resumes and doing all those types of approach, I don't know how you get off the ground as a small business nowadays. I mean, luck always factors into it, but I don't know how to do that.
I don't know that anybody knows how to do that successfully. Right. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, if you have piqued interest and curiosity from the audience, how do they learn more?
Go to buildmyteam.com. Best approach is to schedule a free consultation and talk to our team. Tell them all your nightmares. Open the closet, pull all the skeletons out, be completely candid with our folks. We have to make sure we're going to help you. We don't take on clients that we can't do that. And if we can help you, we'll absolutely do that. We can transform business owners' lives simply by doing the one thing that we do repeatedly around the country, and that's by getting those A players and B+ players on your team.
Thank you for sharing that. The link will be in the show notes, so it's easy for the audience members to find. Today, Mike, you shared with us kind of the story of how you're using automation to help businesses hire A players, making sure that you actually start with creating a haystack so that you can filter out all of those people who really should not be in this role because they will not perform, just so you can get to those ones that have skills and talents that those individuals may not even know that they have, that will make them high performers in these roles. You talked about it being a backwards hiring process and getting down to the point where the actual owner hiring is investing less than an hour of their time-ish. This is truly game-changing. And audience members, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, because everything that we do to grow and scale starts with people. And this is a way to get those first level people in so that you can build and grow on their successes, and then you are actually growing and scaling your business. Mike, thank you for your time. Audience members, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show.